So let's talk about freelancing. I used to think that freelancing was this big thing. I thought if I became a freelancer, I would have more freedom, make more money, have more opportunities, and generally just have a better life than if I had a job. But a few months into being a freelancer, I found that it was like a job, but worse in every possible way. I had no stable income, or my income was inconsistent. I had more than one boss because I had multiple clients that were all low paying. And to be honest, life was pretty miserable. My reality was very different from the vision I had in my head. And that's partly because I built up that vision to be something bigger than it was. But that's also partly because I was making a lot of mistakes when I was starting out freelancing. Over the years, I have rectified those mistakes and figured out how to actually make freelancing pretty enjoyable and give you that freedom and give you more income and also more opportunities. Now I feel like freelancing is exactly what I thought it would be in the beginning, but that's 4.5 years later. In this video, I'm going to share with you the 17 things that I wish I'd known when I first got started. And if I'd known these, I would have made freelancing enjoyable much quicker than 4.5 years. I'd probably made it enjoyable in like 4.5 months. So let's get into them. Number one is you get better clients as soon as you act like the freelancer who deserves better clients. So what I mean by this is as soon as you position yourself as an expert and actually act like someone who would work with better clients, that's when you're going to get better clients. If you don't have your shit together, then the chances are you're going to get clients who also don't have their shit together. You need to have a process, which I'll touch on in a minute, and you need to be someone who actually works in a consistent way, delivers work on time, does good work, and actually acts like an expert. As soon as you act like someone who deserves better clients, you will start to find better clients, and those better clients will also refer you to other better clients. Number two is to follow a process. As a freelancer, your most valuable asset is your time. And the only way to get more done is to either be more productive or work more hours. And no one wants to work more hours, and you can only be so productive. Following a process will help you be more productive, but it has a lot more benefits than just productivity. It'll help you deliver higher quality work and you'll make fewer mistakes. Once you've defined a process for how you work, it'll help you feel more confident when you're pitching to clients. It'll help you appear as an expert, which then helps you get better clients and better work. Now, defining a process takes time. In the beginning, you're just going to have to write down what you think your process should look like. But when you actually complete projects, there'll probably be steps that you actually don't need, and there'll be other steps that you do need to include in that process. Now, when I'm building a website, my process looks like the client discovery phase, the content, the design, the development, the quality assurance, and then eventually the launch. Each of these sections, each of these phases has its own tasks and its own checklist. And over the years, this process has become pretty robust, but initially it didn't look like this. To begin with, it was just a checklist of items that I remembered that I needed to do. And then over time, I built on this as I figured out exactly how I want to work and how I like to work. Defining a process will also help you work with other freelancers and potentially hire employees. Ultimately, what I think sets the best freelancers apart from the rest is the fact that they have a defined process and they refine that process over time. And really, they just follow that process over and over and produce higher quality work. Number three is to Templatise everything you possibly can. So from invoices to proposals to contracts, everything you can think of that you can create a template for that is going to be reusable, then just create some template for it. It doesn't matter if you create that in Google Docs, in Notion, or I even use Hello Bonsai occasionally. Just creating those templates is going to save you so much time, but it's also going to take a lot of that mental load off. So you're not going to have to think about, oh, how do I draft up this contract, or do I have to talk to a lawyer for this contract? You're just going to have it there. You're just going to swap out some of those details and then send it over to the client. Number four is to create basic scripts for everything you possibly can. This is very similar to creating templates, but basic scripts are just common little snippets that you're going to use. So for example, when you're onboarding clients, you might get asked a certain question quite a lot. If you get asked a certain question, you could just answer that once and then create that snippet and then just copy and paste it whenever you get asked that. This is really great for when you're onboarding clients, say if you ever have to fire a client, which hopefully you don't, but maybe you do. I use something called Text Expander for this. So whenever I have a little snippet, I write the snippet, put it into Text Expander, and then create a little expansion for it. That way I can just use a keyboard shortcut and access that snippet. Number five is to automate everything you possibly can. So Zapier is going to be your best friend here. All Zapier does is essentially it uses API calls and helps you glue different tools together. What's great about Zapier is it's going to save you so much time using those templates, because as soon as we have a trigger, so for example, we have a new client who needs to be onboarded. As soon as we have a trigger, we can create a process where, for example, if we have a new client, It creates an invoice, it creates a proposal, it creates a contract, it sends them an email. In my personal workflow at the minute, as soon as someone signs up to my productized service, it sends them an email, it sends me a message in Slack, it creates a Trello board and does a bunch of other things. But it just saves so much time having this automated rather than having to go in there and manually do each of these tasks. Number 6 is that a 30-minute call will probably take up 150 minutes of your day. And that is because that call will probably live rent-free in your head for the 60 minutes before the call. You'll have the 30 minutes on the call, and it'll probably take up your mental capacity for the 60 minutes after the call. Calls are obviously important, especially in that onboarding and client discovery phase, but just use them sparingly and make sure you're aware that it's going to affect your productivity throughout the rest of the day. Number 7 is learn to write. So effectively communicating through email and through Slack is one of the biggest skills you can possibly learn as a freelancer. Learning to write better is going to save you from jumping on calls all the time, and maybe putting in an extra 5 minutes into writing an email is really going to save you that 150 minutes it might take to just jump on a call. Number 8 is to use Loom just all the friggin' time because it is so good. In the beginning, I was hesitant about using Loom. I didn't really want to pay the $10 a month, I think it is, but once I started using it, I've probably saved at least 20, 30 plus hours every single week because I just record a short Loom video and send it to a client with an update or walking them through how to do something, and it is just great. It's just so much better than jumping on Zoom. just use Loom. It's good. Number 9 is to know the difference between cost and value. Cost is what you pay and value is what you get. Position your work as an investment and not an expense. You should be an expert and not that technician that they just pay hourly. Remember that experts charge what a project is worth, whereas technicians charge for how long it took to complete that project. Number 10 is that you have fewer hours than you think. Every week, there's probably going to be between 5 and 10 hours that are taken up by non-billable work. So this is work that you can't charge clients for. That means that you need to factor in that non-billable work to your billable work. For example, if you want to earn 100 grand a year, then let's say you want to work 40 hours a week for 48 weeks of the year. I think that's 1,440 hours. Let me just check my notes because I completely forgot. That's 1,440 hours of billable work. You divide that out and your effective hourly rate needs to be around $70 per hour. On top of that, you've got to think that 100 grand that you earn from those 30 billable hours a week, the chances are that that's only revenue and you're not factoring in all your other business expenses, which leads me on to my next point. And that is number 11. You should probably raise your rates. If there's never any pushback on the price that you're charging, then you definitely need to raise your rates because you should always feel a little bit uncomfortable that you're charging so much. This is to help you improve and help you provide more value to the client. The higher the price that you charge, the easier it is for you to produce better quality work because you're not worrying about money and you're able to actually provide more value than you're charging. It's important to consistently improve as a freelancer, and as you improve, you need to consistently raise your rates. Number 12 is to avoid these red flags from clients. So if a client shows you one of these red flags, then you should probably run away. And the first one is to try and negotiate down price without being willing to reduce the scope. So if you ever reduce the price, you should also be reducing the scope of your work. The second thing is them being reluctant to sign a contract. Now, I don't always use a contract now, but if a client is reluctant to sign a contract, then that's probably a bad sign. The third red flag is them being adamant on the fact that it's not that much work. The chances are, if they're so focused on it being not that much work, it's just because they want you to not charge them very much money. Obviously, there is situations where it's not that much work, but if they're so adamant on it and, just pushing you to think, oh, this is actually not that much work and the scope is going to be quite small, the chances are the scope is going to be quite big and they're going to be a demanding client. And the fourth red flag is them not wanting to pay a down payment. If they don't pay a down payment, then I'm afraid you're not getting paid. They're not paying. Number 13 is that connections plus skills plus conversations equals dollar bills. And that's because being a successful freelancer is really down to 3 things. And that is, you're good at what you do, you're easy to get along with, and you deliver the work on time. And as Neil Gaiman said in his infamous commencement speech, you only need 2 of the 3 to be a successful freelancer. Number 14 is to teach everything you know. So educate your clients, share your secrets with freelancers, and teach people on the internet. Sharing your secrets works with people will help you in the long run. Number 15 is to create a future-facing portfolio. So you're going to attract the kind of work that you put out into the world. So if you want to work with a certain type of company, then your portfolio should show that type of work. Remember that your portfolio only has to appeal to the type of people you actually want to work with. You don't have to impress other designers, you don't have to impress random companies. You only have to impress your target audience. If you want to work with tech companies, then you need to be displaying tech websites. If you want to work with health companies, then you need to be displaying work which is related to health companies. Number 16 is that it's your business and you make the rule book. If you don't want to work 40 hours a week, then you don't have to work 40 hours a week. And if you don't want to work 9 a.m. till 5 p.m. and maybe you want to work, I don't know, 9 p.m. till 5 a.m., you can do that, although it probably will be quite hard to get on client calls. Remember that when you're building a business, you set the terms, so you can design the lifestyle that you want to live. It can be hard to break free of that default path, but remember, you don't need to follow the default path. Number 17 is to figure out, are you a freelancer or are you an entrepreneur? And there is a difference. Freelancers are paid to do the work, and entrepreneurs are paid to run the company that does the work. In the beginning, I wasted so much time trying to be both at the same time. Eventually, I committed to figuring out freelancing, and then I promised that I would figure out entrepreneurship later on. Now I'm making that move into entrepreneurship once I kind of figured out the whole freelancing thing. But you need to define, are you a freelancer or are you an entrepreneur? As always, thank you very much for watching, and let me know if you think there's any tips that I forgot in the comments or anything you recommend to freelancers when they're starting out. I will catch you in the next video. Goodbye.